Welcome to B2B Marketing Unlocked, the podcast that helps CEOs, business leaders, and marketing executives unlock brand growth. In each episode, I bring on industry experts to share their journeys, lessons learned, and the marketing secrets that drive results, while also sharing my own strategies along the way. I'm your host, Jony Mansilla, founder of Jony Studios, where we help businesses create profitable podcasts and content that drive growth. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to another episode of B2B Marketing Unlocked. Today I'm very excited because we have Kelly Hopping, Chief Marketing Officer from Demandbase with us. Kelly, thank you for taking the time to join us.
Absolutely. It's great to be here.
Yes. So I want to just jump in and ask you how you first got into B2B marketing or your current role.
Yeah, not on purpose. I was an engineer in college, and for some reason, the night before my first internship started, I was going to go be a product development intern because, like all good engineers do, and I got a call, and they had a reorg. I was going to work for Sabre, the reservation system for American Airlines. And they said, hey, I just got reorged. I'm no longer the VP of product development. They're moving me to product marketing. Do you want to do marketing for me instead? And I was like, sure. And I've been in marketing ever since. Literally, a reorg at a company is what changed my entire career trajectory. So I've been in marketing for a while. I worked for like 4 years and then thought I should probably figure out what marketing actually is. I'd been making it up for a while. So I went to grad school, got my MBA, and then continued in marketing, started in consumer for 4 years, but then had a kid and wanted to move to Texas. And there was really only B2B tech in Austin. And so I was like, I guess I should go B2B marketing. And then now I've been in that ever since.
That's amazing. So it was all from a reorganization and then...
Just a reorg and wanting to be in Austin. Those two things kept me into B2B marketing.
Tell me about the company you're with now, Demandbase. Like, what do they do and what does your marketing team currently look like?
Yeah, so Demandbase is a blast because I sell to marketers, which is great because that's me. I sell to CMOs just like me. And so I understand their pain points, understand their need states. But what we do is we basically help companies grow their pipeline. And so we do that through account-based marketing technology. We do it across the full go-to-market from sales to RevOps from marketing to RevOps to sales. And we help automate their growth at scale in everything from one-to-one traditional ABM down to ABM at scale in a one-to-many universe against target account lists. So we just basically help companies accelerate their pipeline.
Are you the only one in marketing at the organization, or what does the team look like currently? Is there do you work with other people in it?
Yeah. Sorry, you asked that. I didn't answer that. There's, I have about, maybe 70 or 80 folks on the team. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, so we have a full brand to demand window. So I have everything from comms, so our PR and our brand strategy, thought leadership, to product marketing and the way that we position our products and price them and differentiate and analyst relations and all of that, market intelligence, competitive intelligence, down to growth marketing, which is all things around field marketing, campaigns, ABM, our website, our digital marketing, paid media. And then we have evangelism as well. So we have a couple chief evangelists whose job is to kind of make sure we're driving that sort of story and mojo in the market as well and being thought leaders out there. And then I carry on into the SDR world. So SDRs have worked in organizations where sometimes they report into sales, sometimes they report into marketing. At Demandbase, they report into marketing. And so they're a continuation of our marketing campaigns and take it all the way through to pipeline.
Wow, that's awesome. So it sounds a pretty big, solid team, all working towards the same goal, which is great.
That's the hope.
And you briefly mentioned this, that you were targeting other CMOs. So it's great. Mm-hmm. Like, what a way to actually know your target market by being the target market. But is there anyone else you're trying to reach, or is there a specific industry you guys are focusing on, or is it just CMO in general? It doesn't matter what company, what industry. How would you define that?
Yeah, I say CMO kind of loosely. We definitely target CMOs because they're the ultimate decision maker often in a decision like this. But the actual practitioners and users of our product are really digital marketers, demand gen marketers, some field marketing, some customer marketing. So, but they all usually roll up to a growth marketing leader or a CMO. So that's really who we target. We also target SDRs and SDR managers because they, the beauty of an account-based platform that's ultimate goal is to drive pipeline is that it drives sales and marketing alignment. And so we need the marketing team and the SDRs to be in lockstep. So we sell to both of those use cases, and then RevOps is often a key driver of decision making because they typically own the tech stack. And so we work with them to make sure. I mean, the biggest things we've learned about demand-based success with customers is when it's the most successful when it's fully integrated into the rest of the tech stack. So, for example, at Demandbase, we run shocker Demandbase on Demandbase, and so we use it it's the hub of our go-to-market strategy. So our Marketo and marketing automation platform plugs into Demandbase, our web qualification, our form fills, our SDR tooling, our campaigns, our email systems, they all connect through Demandbase. And we make sure and so there's consistent data driving all of our decision making. So that means we've got to influence all different parts across marketing, RevOps, and sales.
That's amazing. So you're actually using the tool that you sell, which is great because sometimes you get some companies that don't use their own tool. And then that's almost like, why are you not using it? Right.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to be authentic. I mean, I meet with CMOs all the time, and usually not to sell them, right? Usually to tell my own story about, well, this is how we're using Demandbase we're customer zero, right? And so how are we using Demandbase? Where have we seen value? How are we structuring our team? Because that's what CMOs want to know. They're like, how are you using it? Where have you seen success? How should I invest in resources? What's my first step? How do I crawl, walk, run? And by being a user, you can authentically kind of answer that question and say, well, this is how we did it. This is the results we've seen. This is the lessons we've learned. And so it just becomes a much more authentic conversation than trying to sell a product. Like I spent the majority of my career selling to IT decision makers. Let me tell you, those IT decision makers did not want to talk to me, right? Like I was not they didn't, like customers didn't ask to speak to the CMO. Here they do because I'm in their shoes and I know exactly what they're going through. And it makes a very different sales motion than trying to do that as sort of just a marketing team writing IT messaging.
I love that. Authentic conversations. And now you have full alignment with the product you're selling and also kind of where you're at aligning with your target market too.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Absolutely.
So let's get into what's working. Like what's working best to drive brand awareness or pipeline for you guys?
We're doing really well right now. Marketing Demandbase drives probably influences about 90 to 95% of all pipeline across the company.
Wow.
Yeah. Our SDRs source about 60%, especially of our new business growth. And that's awesome. And most of that is working off of, they're doing a lot of outbound, but they're also doing a lot of inbound working. I would say that so overall new business pipeline is doing well, and it's being driven primarily by events are a big driver for us. I think there was sort of a market that was hungry for it after being kind of quiet for years, 2020, 21, 22. And so I think now the events have come back in a big way. And we've learned to do events better and smarter in terms of how we build programming around big corporate events. So that one's been important. And that also ties to kind of field events and those, any chance we can meet our customers face-to-face, one-on-one, we see a lot of value and a lot of pipeline creation. So that's one that's working really well. And then I think our product positioning is really helping. We've done a lot of work on our product innovation, launch velocity, how quickly we're able to get new products out, keep up with the market, drive the story, stay ahead of the trends, I think has been really, really helpful. And so typically in a head-to-head with our competitors, we tend to win these days. Whereas I would say 3 or 4 years ago, we would not have. I think the product now has taken a major leap forward. And so, it's my team's job to take that story, to package it in a way that customers can understand. But really that tribute goes all to the R&D team. I think they've done a really phenomenal job.
I like hearing all aspects of it. So
Yeah.
why don't we go a little deeper into events? When you say events, are you talking like trade shows, or do you host events at your guys' offices, or like kind of like a hotel venue? Kind of what do you mean by events when you say like bringing your customers all together?
Yeah, we do. I mean, a few different ways. One, we, at the very high level, we do a lot of just webinars and virtual events. I wouldn't normally put those in, but I'll talk about those because they are probably our number one absolute pipeline driver. And I think it's the steady cadence, right? We try to run at least one webinar a week, if not more, but at least one a week. Not always with the same audience. Sometimes one's for financial services and one's for the mid-market in Europe. Like we have different, cuts, but we try to run them on a really frequent basis. So we have that kind of steady drumbeat of bringing pipeline into the franchise. From a true face-to-face event perspective, we do a balance. We do a little bit of trade show and a little bit of our own. So on the trade show front, we tend to aim up market. So marketing is focused across the company. We do business with all segments, but from a marketing perspective, we focus our dollars on the mid-market and enterprise. And so we tend to do events where they're really, really focused at hitting that target audience. So it's not every trade show for sure. It's Gartner, the big North America and European conferences. It's the Forrester B2B Summit. We do a little bit with inbound, with HubSpot inbound to get our mid-market audience. We do some things with Dreamforce because that tends to grab a similar audience. So those are some of the events. Adobe is another one we partner with. So those are some of the big trade show events. And what we tend to do is what we've seen as the highest value is having enough of we don't really care about the booth space, but as much of enough booth space on the floor to get a speaking slot during the event. And any chance we can get a speaking slot allows us to bring a customer with us. And then the customer, back to that message of authenticity, like a customer can tell their true story of the value of what they've seen using Demandbase. And so we'll either fireside chat with them, or they'll just share their story and how they have how they've onboarded Demandbase, how they've grown it and scaled it across the organization, the increase in pipeline and close rates that they've seen because of it. And so that's really us, like the MO. And so those speaking sessions, that's where massive pipe gets created. So that's what we do. We get a big enough booth that helps from a brand perspective. Scans are, whatever, helpful, but they're not necessarily fully qualified. But the speaking sessions themselves is where it really grows. And then the last thing we did is this year, for the first time, and maybe certainly since I've been here 2 years, but maybe 5 or 6 years, we did a flagship event, Demandbase flagship event, our own user conference, prospect conference. We split it in two. We did one for Europe and one North America. So the Europe one was in April in London, incredibly successful, allowed us to kind of work out the kinks before we have our even bigger one in New York, October 7th. So super excited about that. But this is the first year we're bringing back our own hosted event. It's
almost like having a live testimonial when you say trying to get a slot where you're talking in front of everyone. Because I've been to a lot of trade shows where sometimes the ROI is there and then sometimes it isn't, right? Like you meet a few people, you have some people that aren't really your exact target market, and then it just fizzles out. And it's a lot of investment to kind of, set up the booth, have the people there and do all of that. So that's a really great angle to take it.
Well, sometimes it's like only an extra maybe 40 or 50,000 or something to get a speaking slot. But man, you get one customer kind of engaged in the content and you can get 50,000 in pipeline with that one customer. I mean, we think about like at Forrester this year, we had Palo Alto Networks share the stage with us and tell their story. It was standing room only. The entire room was packed, literally every inch of wall space full, every seat in the place full. We went overtime because there were so many questions. And we drove a ton of pipeline from that one 45-minute session. And so such a great, because then it was real. It wasn't a marketing showcase. It wasn't me telling a story. I did an introduction. Otherwise, the customer told their own experience. And there's nothing more authentic than that.
Wow, that's great. And how do you collect all that data like, let's say people are watching the show, people are watching the conversation. Like, do you do QR codes, or do you have like do you do a lead magnet, like kind of offer something of value for their email address or contact info to kind of get that process started? Or is it just mainly like brand where they see Demandbase and then they just reach out via the website later? What kind of?
No, we track a lot. So so the events are so sophisticated now that one, obviously anybody who comes by the booth, we scan their badge. And so we get their contact information just by like through if they stop by to like take some socks, we don't necessarily scan the badge, but
Yeah.
if they want to have a conversation with us and it seems material, then we scan their badge. So we get that information. Then we have a follow-up sort of email sequence, SDR outreach that goes to those. For speaking slots, they're so sophisticated now that when you walk into like the room where we're doing our case study, like everybody who walks in, their badge is scanned by like, I don't know, some fancy tech system as they walk through the doorway.
Oh, wow.
And so then we get the lead list the next week of like, these are the 250 people that attended your case study session. And so we can follow with them with very specific, that's not just like, it was great seeing you at Forrester's, like it was great having you at the Palo Alto Network's case study session. We loved your question on XYZ. So we can actually kind of track those. And then what we can see is how many of those respond, how many meetings get set up, and then how much pipeline gets created. And so we track our events for a long time, but really it's about a 6-month cycle from when an event happens until that full pipeline is materialized. And we can look back and say, oh, that one speaking session raised 1.5 million in pipeline, which is pretty phenomenal.
That's great. And that's so true. Data is very important, right? Because if you can't measure it, there's no way to track what's actually creating positive change in your organization, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. And how do you split focus between brand and lead generation, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, in the B2C world, there's a pretty distinct, break between the two. In the B2B world, it's a little bit connected. I mean, unless I was going to like brand a stadium or put a billboard up on the 101 or something, it's harder to kind of distinguish the two as much. We tend to try to think, I sort of love the concept of like performance branding, meaning that everything that we're doing should be driving some behavior. So even if we're doing a display ad, which operates as a top of funnel, because we do it for sort of awareness targeting, and then if there's engagement, we retarget, and then it sort of drives people through the funnel. So awareness is never or rarely done as a standalone initiative where it doesn't have something that drives them from awareness to consideration down into pipeline and preference. And so with that, on that side, I think the budget is probably more heavily weighted towards what I would call performance marketing. They have the overwhelming majority of the budget, but every dollar in performance marketing, with the exception of maybe paid search, everything is building your brand, right? If you're doing paid social on LinkedIn, it's brand building targeted at your audience. If you're doing a big, large event, it's building your brand. If you have a booth at an event, it's building your brand, but you're also getting leads off of it that you hope you can convert into pipeline. So I don't think there's any time when we separate them that clean. But I would say the majority goes to performance marketing. I'd love to do big brand campaigns, but sometimes the ROI is so untenable that it's hard to justify up brand alone. Brand needs to be connected to some sort of action that drives pipe.
I agree with that 100%. Because again, the investment is so grand if you do really big brand campaigns that it's kind of hard to see how effective it is. But like you said, you need both, right?
Yeah.
Because when people are seeing your brand everywhere, they're starting to trust you more. So then the other like performance campaigns start performing a lot better. So right on.
Yeah.
And you touched on this already, but if there's anything else in terms of tools or workflows you rely on most, let me know if anything else comes up. Because I know you said you use Demandbase and then you have Marketo and you have everything connected. But is there any other tools that you guys use that are helpful?
Yeah, there's a lot of things we're using right now. Of course, like everybody, trying to figure out where to insert AI into the workflows so we can get as efficient as possible. So some of the tools that we use, I think my favorite tool is probably, or where we've seen the biggest bang, is we use Qualified. We use Qualified for both our web chat, which is sort of automated responses when you chat on the website. But we also use their Piper, which is kind of an AI SDR type thing. And we use Piper to do meeting scheduling after engagement with a prospect. And they can do all kinds of things with regard to AI work or to SDR workflows. So we've had a lot of benefit from that. We're able to attribute quite a bit of pipeline to Qualified. So that's one. And then really our whole SDR universe, we are testing constantly different AI tools that we can wrap around them. So Qualified and Piper being one of them. We're testing Nooks with auto dialing. We are testing Reggie for prospecting and outreach for web visitors or for campaign follow-ups. We're using Clay to enrich our data. We have a ton of data in our own platform, but sometimes we just kind of round out. The majority is Demandbase, but we can round out some of the contact fields with Clay. And then we run Demandbase, which we have a bunch of agents called Agentbase inside Demandbase, and we run those workflows through all of our campaigns and through our sales team, whether it's an account engagement agent or it's filter agent. It's helping our teams operate more efficiently. So we're running a lot of different tools. Like I said, they're all connected, but and all running on the same data, but just looking for ways to have the smartest data, less waste, optimize our workflows, be as efficient as possible, increase the productivity of our SDRs. That's the ultimate goal.
That makes a lot of sense. And for a tool like Piper, when they're doing like scheduling and all that, have you ever run into any issues that by not having it like human do the scheduling, that like, is there any perception? I know things are changing now. People are way more open to AI and AI workflows. But how do you see that from your perspective?
I think their tech is really good. Obviously, it's something we've got to learn. We watch it constantly to make sure, especially if you're sending personalized emails and things, you want to make sure the names are right, the use case is right, the timing is right? Like that, all that stuff is being connected. I think where we've seen, we used to run our web chat from Qualified with actual SDRs. Our SDRs had to like man the chat, for years. And we moved over to Qualified, which is, like I said, it's AI generated, and our conversion rates went up. So they actually, we were able to get more people scheduled. We got more people to fill out a form. We got more people meeting with our SDR team. And so we've seen, so there may be some issues here and there, but I think overall we've had a really high success rate on converting that, and then taking the SDRs off to actually do some strategic work and focusing on the right accounts and outbounding and researching and all the things that are going to help them generate more pipeline, while the bots are able to do the sort of manual burdensome tasks.
That's amazing. It's a new world we're going into where, now it's,
it's hard to even keep up.
100%. But it's so good because I think the companies that are, like you said, testing and leveraging that bit by bit are the ones that are going to make it through, right? The people that are just like scared of it and not even looking at it before they're just not going to be able to compete, right? So it's great. You're staying innovative.
Well, it's keeping us innovative, which is good. It's also testing things that our customers are wanting to test. So we're able to kind of speak intelligently about how we've seen Demandbase work with all of those tools. So I think that helps. And then the other front is, I hear all the time, because we sell to enterprises a lot, and sometimes the big enterprises are hesitant to embark on AI, right? Mm-hmm. Because data governance, data protection issues, not sure what's going in where and what's coming out. And so they're a little bit hesitant. And so I think the risk on that is you're going to have really, really great talent that's not going to be developed in how to think AI first. And they're going to churn out and go to companies that are AI first. Mm-hmm. So it's allowing us to really pick up some great talent, which I'm excited about. But I worry if companies aren't starting to be AI first, you're going to lose some because they're going to feel like they're sort of missing out on development they could be getting in other companies. So I think it's just important to hang on, develop our people, but also be able to be customer first in the way that we speak, because we've been there.
Yeah, 100%. That's awesome. And can you walk me through a recent campaign from idea to results? It doesn't have to be super in depth, just kind of an overview. Curious.
Yeah, one that was a little bit unusual was a few years ago, there was a consortium, a part of different partners called ABMLA. Mm-hmm. It got retired a few years ago. So it stands for ABM Leadership alliance, I think. And the idea was that it was a lot of different partners coming together that could roll out, that could each kind of bring a different expertise. And so then you could kind of host community forums, host events, and kind of talk about the full go-to-market ecosystem, and not just ABM, for example, if you're meeting with us, or SDRing with Qualified or whoever. So you could kind of all be on a call, on a meeting together, or in a chat together on Slack. And so, but it got retired for a number of reasons, but it was starting to skew, I think, pretty SMB. And we thought, I don't know if that's the right audience. We want to be able to help larger companies. And so we just relaunched ABMLA earlier this month on August 5th. And we launched it with some key partners. And we did it in a really beautiful way in terms of making sure that, because it wasn't about Demandbase, it was about really making sure that our customers understand the value of an account-based strategy, or our prospects, or anybody in the market. And we kind of run it in parallel too. We have another thing that we launched back in February, a remake of our ABM certification classes. And again, those are all about making sure that the market, it's kind of a thought leadership piece of making sure the market understands the value of an account-based strategy, how to stand it up, what it looks like. And again, not about selling Demandbase. So obviously we want to be a big part of that conversation, but really about why should you even go down an account-based strategy instead of a kind of spray and pray model. And it's been so valuable because it kind of builds this credibility and expertise. And so that ABMLA, like I said, it was more of an ecosystem play, but same idea, to be able to kind of put Demandbase at the center of an account-based strategy while still building up the whole ecosystem go-to-market and putting our customers first. So we launched that. And it was a combination of a website, a community, a set of partners, PR, ad campaign kind of thing around it. And it's done well. It's ramped quickly. It's hit all of our marketing goals in terms of engagement responses. And it will continue to grow as we're continuing to add new partners and continuing to kind of expand the volume and engagement rate in the community.
That's great. And so true. I think people underestimate the value of thought leadership and just kind of coming from a perspective of how can I educate our ideal customers on essentially what you guys help with, but at the same time, it's in a broader scale. So then they relate your brand to actually helping them with their companies. And in turn, that creates like a perfect connection where it doesn't feel so like ramming down your throat, but they kind of discover from you from being helpful, which I think is really, really valuable.
Well, we've realized too, our competitor, our primary competitor, has a very different approach. They have a really kind of aggressive sales cycle. It's very kind of in your face. Mm-hmm. And this is an opportunity to kind of be the other side. And we've gotten a ton of positive feedback about that. Like, man, I feel like you guys are partners with me. You want to help me. You want to be on this journey with me. You're not trying to like force me to sign something. Like, you just want me to like understand the value, and then I will naturally come to you. And we've just gotten a ton of great customer feedback by using that strategy.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And what's your biggest challenge you're facing right now?
A couple things. I think one of them is the shift towards AI in the market. Mm-hmm. There's new AI, I won't say competitors, but sort of niche use cases that chip away at different parts of what we do as a company, or in the margins of what we do. And they're not usually established companies. A lot of AI startups, a lot of guys in the garage who are fundraising and selling, this AI tech for really niche use cases. And so there's just a lot of noise. So it's a lot of where the investment dollars are going out in the capital markets. It's a lot of kind of where they come up a lot, where we need to kind of like play whack-a-mole on like, do we need to be doing this? Are they a threat? Are they not? And I think the big challenge is not that. It's how do we make sure that Demandbase, which is built on an AI-based platform. I mean, we are AI-powered in the way that we drive insights. We're AI-powered in the way that we automate workflows. We're AI-powered in the way that we take first-party and third-party data together and rationalize or kind of reconcile it together. And so everything about Demandbase is AI, but telling that story as an established company that when AI wasn't a thing, out loud 5 years ago, 3 years ago, all of a sudden now trying to reinvent our story to match up with what the product has always been doing, and the product sort of staying front and center from an AI perspective. I think like ensuring that relevance is the biggest strategy, is the biggest challenge right now, making sure that we aren't seen as legacy because we are not talking about AI in the way that the world has sort of whitewashed everything with AI. And so we're trying to figure out, like, how do we make sure that our AI first story is front and center without losing sort of the heritage that is Demandbase. So that's one big challenge. The other one is just pipeline in general. New business, not as much. Expansion pipeline, more of a challenge, just because we have such a robust system that sometimes getting somebody to buy the big product off the shelf, which is great, but then continuing to upgrade is always a challenge, to figuring out the right use cases to make sure that we get our customers growing in the right direction. Retention's great. It's just getting them to continue to invest more and more in Demandbase is always the challenge.
Right on. And I have been seeing that too. There's so many new AI startups, so many that it's hard to keep track of. But the fact you guys have been around for longer, it's good you're thinking about those type of things, right? Because I also feel there's a lot of companies that are just starting to put AI in front of everything, right? Not strategically thinking about it. And sometimes that can kind of backfire, where it's like you become like everyone else, where it's like, no, you wanna have that because it's important, but you want to phrase it in a way that's not just like splattering it all over, a bunch of AI filler words, right?
Yeah, you're like, I don't want to be AI for AI's sake. I want to be able to articulate how our AI is solving a real customer pain point. And I think it's a interesting balance and a big messaging and positioning exercise we've been working on for a while. So I'm excited about getting all of that new messaging out into the market.
And any campaign, experiment, or lesson that surprised you?
Campaign, experiment, or lesson? Not really. I mean, I think this year, our flagship event was an experiment, right? Mm-hmm. We had to go to the board and to the leadership team and ask for incremental dollars and say, hey, we think this is a super important investment we need to make. It's incremental over our baseline. It's good for product. It's good for sales. It's good for marketing. It's good for analyst relations, media relations, you name it. We need to do this type of event. But it was a bet we made in kind of going back to this flagship thing. Do we need to spend these kind of dollars? And it paid off. I mean, we exceeded our pipeline goals in London. We exceeded our registration by, I think we had to shut down registration 2 weeks early because it was already oversold by 100 by that point, oversold our expected show up rate. So it was, I think I don't remember exactly the numbers, but we way oversold it. We had to turn away people at the door because it was so full. And awesome. Pipeline came through and exceeded goals. So overall, it was a great bet that paid off, that we weren't quite sure. But we said, okay, 1 year, London, New York, let's do it. Let's figure it out. And as soon as we finished London, we were like, go ahead and rebook it for next year. We knew immediately that it was a success and we wanted to do it again. So, so that was one again, there's big companies you expect, like a Salesforce or a Google or whatever, to have a big conference and you expect it to be huge. We just did not know what the demand was going to be for Demandbase, and we hit the right audience, the right mix, the right segments, the right decision makers. So it was a huge success, and I'm super grateful for that. And it's enabled us to kind of continue to ask for more money in that area, hopefully.
That's awesome. And when you run an experiment like that, are you just channeling paid ads, direct email, newsletter, just every avenue to tell everyone about it to create such a successful outcome? Or is it one big explosion? Or
it is kind of a 360 in the way that you think through it, right? It's not just sort of a one and done. Mm-hmm. It's a major kind of mojo mover inside the company, right? Employees get excited about an event like this. They get excited to invite their customers or their prospects to this event, which is great. Product feels inspired that their product is going to be sort of shown in a big way and in a positive way. And that's great. And then, we run display ads to do it. We run organic and paid social. We run email marketing. We run it through like Churn Zero through our customer marketing or our customer platform, so we can invite our customers there. We run, everything you can think of. We're doing, and then we're doing individual SDR outreach, individual AE, and our account management outreach to every customer, every prospect, inviting them to these events, and then trying to find really great stories like, hey, Workday, will you come speak with us at this event and tell your story? Or, hey, SAP, will you come stand on the stage with us and share the story again, so that we can not bore the audience with a bunch of Demandbase presentations. They're not interested in that. They want to hear how Demandbase helps. And so, yeah, it was incredibly successful. And yeah, we ran every different channel possible. But again, all of them are brand building, to your point earlier, and driving performance and driving engagement, which drove to pipeline. So it's all connected.
That's amazing. That's great, because sometimes it's true. It's not just one thing that creates a successful outcome. You have to tackle it from multiple perspectives, multiple idea points, and to drive that result, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, let's do a quick fire round, and let's get into it. So, a marketing resource, habit, or tool you recommend?
Marketing resource, habit, or tool. Let me think about that one. I would say one habit is, I don't know if this is answering your question, but the most valuable meeting I have every week is we have a funnel review every single week with the marketing leadership, or me and our growth marketing leader, as well as our CRO and our RevOps team. And it's literally to look kind of like opportunity by opportunity. How are we tracking? Where's the leakage in the funnel? There's no finger pointing. There's none of that. It's meant to understand where, like, who's, and sometimes it's like, hey, my SDRs aren't hitting, like they're struggling right now. Sometimes it's a sales leader being like, man, my AEs are not outbounding. I need to get them on it. And it's a really honest conversation, but to me, that's the most productive meeting to drive our behaviors and our actions, following that. So to me, that's the one activity that every marketing and sales leader need to do every single week.
It seems like having that weekly keeps everything on track, right? If you see things are starting to slip, you're reviewing all of it, right? So you're just not out to lunch, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. Someone who's recently influenced your marketing. It can be someone famous, or it can be someone like personally, or professionally, anything.
Yeah. So we're doing, my leadership team, we're doing a book club right now on courageous marketing, which is the book by Yudi from Gong. And so he wrote this book, super easy read, like very, common language, and just really about the importance of being bold and not playing it safe. That in a market like this and an economy like this, like, we can't afford to just sort of like stay neutral. Like, we need to have a unique point of view. It doesn't have to be all inclusive. It doesn't have to represent every single thing that we do, but we need to have a bold stance in the way that we go to market. And so my team is using that a lot to drive what our 2026 planning should look like. And so that's one I would say is I encourage teams to do that. We bought the book for all of my leaders and are reading it, and then kind of checking in as parts are moving the needle. So that's one I would say as a marketing leader. The other one I'm reading is the Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins, which is phenomenal. Yes. And that's probably affecting more of my personal life than my business life, but it's affected all. And so if you haven't read it, nothing to do with B2B marketing, but it is a gift in understanding how adult friendship works. I think it's pretty phenomenal.
Right on. And I haven't read either of those books, so I appreciate the recommendation. I have heard of them, especially that second one I've heard of, but it's good to know. And that's a great practice you guys do. Like, do you guys do this all the time, or is it something you've just started? But that's the first time I hear like a company or even a team is doing like a book club, but related to the work you do. What a great way to stay sharp and kind of develop new ideas that you can implement together.
Yeah, it's the first time we've done it on this team. But I think it was a really good idea. Like, I had read an article about courageous marketing, and so I sent it to my team and I was like, what do y'all think about or check out this book. It seems like it'd be really valuable. And Gong is in our space, right? They're in the revenue intelligence, like B2B marketing, B2B sales space. And so it was really interesting to kind of be in a sister company or a type company to kind of use that book as a means of sort of just creating inspiration. I learned it when I was at Rackspace 10 years ago, we went private. And when we went private, Taylor Rhodes, our CEO, sent everybody the book, what's his name? Horowitz guy, the Hard Thing About Hard Things, which is another phenomenal book. And he read it and he sent it to all of us. And it was about companies going through transition, companies going private, companies going public, companies, getting bought out, whatever it is, about those major changes. And it was such a gift on just everybody kind of understanding what we were in for as a newly private company with a new private equity owner. And so it just kind of has always stuck with me as like, that's a way to maybe get people thinking about something that doesn't feel so personal or emotional as your own job, but instead like, let's look at it from the outside.
Nice. Right on.
Yeah.
All right. We have one final question. What's an advice you'd give to your younger self?
Probably a couple things. One, I would say to be better at compartmentalizing performance feedback and character. I think especially as women, I don't know that men do as much, but certainly and I think that's one of the things that men are better at, but women I think tend to take it all in one bucket. And so if we get feedback about the way we could have handled, I don't know, a product launch or something, we immediately take that as sort of a character attack. And I had to kind of learn over time to separate those and say, okay, like me optimizing the way that I could have launched this product is very different than my kind of value and worth as a leader, as a person, or whatever. And I think, and leaders can see that in their people. They can separate those things, but when you're hearing the feedback, it's really hard to do that and not take it personal. So that's one thing I try to think about. I wish I had done a little bit better or understood more. And hopefully I'm coaching my daughter on the same thing. The other one is recognizing that once you get to, I would say, the director level, typically, you kind of get typecast as a function. So if you start your career in, say, copywriting, and you work up through content strategy, content marketing, and now you're the director of content marketing, you get a little bit typecast as a content person instead of a marketing leader. And so I always say that it's really important, especially before the director level, to take a lot of lateral moves. Like if you get a chance to work in paid and then you get a chance to hop over to campaigns and you get a chance to hop over to content or content marketing or move in product marketing, you just become so much more well-rounded so that as you move up after that, you are seen as sort of CMO pipeline instead of like a content marketer. And I think that's really valuable. So people don't always, they want, well, the other side of that, and this is a longer answer than you probably wanted.
No, this is great.
The other side of that is I think people assume, and I probably did as well, that once you've mastered a job functionally, you should check the box and move up. And so they kind of think there should be this constant promotion in your career that's going to get you like, well, I mastered paid media, time to go up and run digital. I mastered digital, time to move up and run the website. And I think the reality is that the soft skills don't get acquired as fast. And so you can master the hard skill, but like leading through like ambiguity or change management in a company or working with different leadership styles or learning to manage a team or any of those kind of things those are time in role type developments. You can't rush those through checking a box. You can't be like, well, I've done change management. Like it's something you have to have lived. And so if you take the time to kind of move around laterally, you get a chance to develop both your functional skills and your soft skills so that you are more ready to move up. Because a lot of times, like I get these senior managers who are like, I'm ready to be director. And I'm like, well, you are functionally, but you haven't lived enough to actually lead at the director level. And that's a hard conversation to have unless somebody has sort of been in those shoes long enough. You can't rush that development. So
Wow,
That's my
that's
pick.
great. That's super insightful. Kelly,
Thanks.
thank you so much for your time and for all these thoughtful answers. I really appreciate you being here. And yes, thank you.
Absolutely. I enjoyed it. Thanks for the conversation.
That's it for today's episode of B2B Marketing Unlocked. I hope you found valuable insights to help you grow your brand and scale with confidence. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to follow the podcast so you never miss an episode. Want to unlock the power of podcasting for your business? Visit jonystudios.com. That's JONY studios.com, where we help businesses create profitable podcasts and content that drive growth. Thanks for listening, and see you in the next episode.